Today, you and I are going to have a conversation about the one thing that you need to do this week. Just one thing. And there's a reason why you and I are going to talk about this today, because I know you need to hear this. There is only one thing that you and I are going to be doing this week. And I'm thinking about this right now during the holidays because right now in my life, it's a vacation week. There are kids home. It's between Christmas and New Year's, and I have downtime. But look, there's always chaos in your life. And I say that because regardless of when you're listening to this, but especially during the holidays, this is a message you need to hear. It's a message I need to hear. It's a message everybody needs to hear because there's only one thing I want you to do this week. Nothing. Do nothing. Wait a minute. Mel Robbins, are you smoking something over there? Did you just say do nothing? And here's the funny part about this. I bet you might be doing something right now because you're a multitasker and so am I. You're listening to me while you're doing the dishes, while you're walking the dogs. Heck, you and I might be at the point in our relationship where you are actually sitting on the toilet and I'm in the bathroom stall with you as you're listening to this. Don't tell me that you have not taken me into the bathroom because I can even feel it over here. And I say this because we got to talk about the art of doing nothing. And look, I'm not stupid enough to think that you can actually do nothing. I mean, obviously not. This is like a metaphorical conversation because you probably have to work. I personally love working between the week of Christmas and New Year because nobody's there. So you can kind of like work half a day and you get the full-time pay and it's way more stress-free and you can get more done because you aren't in a million meetings. But if you do have the time off, let me guess. What are you doing with the time off? You're rearranging your cupboards. You're probably trying to learn Spanish. You're doing a million things on your to-do list. You are like just keeping busy. This week, just stop. Please. I want to explain this concept, this metaphor of doing nothing. Being able to do nothing, whether it's just for a minute or it's for a day or it's for a week, this is so important. And I'm having the conversation not only with you, I am talking to myself right now too. I have a hard time doing nothing. Why? Well, because I'm just like you. I'm addicted to being busy. I'm addicted to my to-do list, writing them out, crossing them off, throwing them away, losing them, writing another one, especially in the world today. The world has glamorized being productive, being busy, go, 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 hustles, hustle culture, having a side hustle. I mean, there's so much to hustle around. Some days I literally have no idea what I'm doing. You may always be on the go like I am, but are you actually getting anywhere? That's why I want to talk about the importance, the art, the science of learning how to do nothing on purpose. And before we jump into it, I don't want you to worry because this is not another podcast episode about meditation. That's not what I'm going to jam down your throat right now. And I also want to say something else. Doing nothing sounds like a luxury, doesn't it? Because when somebody tells me, Mel, just do nothing this week, you know what I say? How about you go F yourself because I got a company to run and I got bills to pay. And I don't know if this is like something that trust funders do or people that don't have to work, but I got kids home. I got stuff to do. And so I want you to know that if you have young kids or you're taking care of aging parents or you're working 2, 3, 4 jobs or the night shift, I'm talking to you too. Because the art of doing nothing is something that we all need in our lives. We have to figure out how to create moments when we're thinking about nothing, when we're doing nothing, because these moments help you refuel. I think one of the reasons why you and I are constantly so stressed and our minds are like a flywheel always going and we're not that present is because we're never not doing something. And so this week, the only thing that I want you and I to do is nothing. And I'm going to break this down, don't worry. Because doing nothing might just mean that you're going to learn this week how to find 5 minutes to do nothing, to think about nothing. It could mean pushing off your to-do list to next week and committing to doing nothing on it this week. And I need this as much as you do. I mean, when I landed at the airport this week in Albany, Chris picked me up, and I had been gone on a business trip for almost a week, and I had also managed to loop in spending some time with our daughter in Los Angeles. And so here I land. I haven't been home in a week. I jump into the front seat of his pickup truck, and I turn to him like, how about we stop at the grocery store on the way home? And he's like, but I've already gone twice this week. And I'm like, well, we probably need something. And then I caught myself, and I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I filling the time with something? Why can't I just sit in this pickup truck and do nothing? Why can't I just go home and put my bags in the closet and just enjoy time with our son and with our dogs? Like, why do I have to do something? And here's another one. So last night, Chris builds a fire, and we're sitting there in front of the fire. It's absolutely beautiful. We have a nice quiet evening. We love to play cribbage and backgammon, and so we played around a cribbage, and he beat me. I know you're thinking. Normally I beat him, but it was one of those nights where he just had all the hands. I hate that. And so as the game was wrapping up, Chris got up, walked into the bedroom, went to bed. Do you know what I did? I sat and scrolled through my freaking phone. I don't even know why I did it. I literally sat there and I started scrolling through Instagram, and next thing you know, 35 minutes have gone by. My husband has gone off to bed. He's sound asleep, snoring, sawing logs, like he's already like in la la land in his deep dream state. I have wasted 35 minutes getting all jacked up about everybody else's life and what people are doing in their businesses and the stuff that I'm not doing and the things I need to buy and all that kind of stuff. I was so busy. I could have enjoyed myself if I had put the phone down. Instead, I picked it up because I got to be doing something. I got to be thinking thoughts. I got to be doing the thing. I got to be scrolling through the thing. I could have just gone to bed like Chris did. Had a nice night's sleep. No, not me. I got to always be doing something. Here's the irony of the topic today, everybody. I have no idea how to do nothing. This is something I don't know a lot about, and I need more of it in my life. I know you feel the same way. And I want to talk to you about this because of the number of questions that are pouring in from you at melrobbins.com. Questions about busyness, about stress, about burnout, about never having time for yourself, about anxiety, about stress, about feeling like you're last on your list. And so this week, you and I are going to focus on the art of doing nothing. If you are lucky enough to be off of work this week, I want you to stop and think, what would that mean for you? If you are somebody who has to work this week, I want you to think, what would a moment of doing nothing look like for you? If you're somebody that has a ton going on, like, you kind of have that feeling like, but I can't, but what, nothing? What if I do that? Take a breath. What would nothing look like if you could spend an hour doing nothing? Not really thinking about anything. Not any agenda, but just doing nothing. What comes to mind for me immediately is running a hot bath. That's what comes to mind to me. Just running a hot bath. I'm not even going to bring a book because I don't want to do anything, That'd be pretty awesome. I'm going to jump into some questions. And I think through these questions, you and I are going to figure out what it means to do nothing. Because I am no expert at this. And I have a feeling that this is going to be one of those conversations that you and I have where you're going to write to me and be like, woman, you got a lot to learn. Let me give you this advice about doing nothing, because I do a better job of doing nothing than you do, Mel Robbins. So our first question, I love this question, comes from a listener named Jenny. And she said, Mel, I'm a new listener to the podcast. I love your energetic voice and find that it energizes me too. I'm a single parent of 2 kids. And I find it difficult to listen to episodes that tell me I'm never too busy, never too tired to XYZ. I've deflected a lot of this from fitness influencers and efficiency experts, but from a self-help standpoint, I find that doing everything and dreaming big can't be shoehorned into a life that already has very little wiggle room for even day-to-day stuff. Can you relate to that? I can certainly relate to that. I'm going to say that again because I think that is so relatable. I've deflected a lot of this type of advice from fitness influencers and efficiency experts. And from a self-help standpoint, I find that doing everything and dreaming big can't be shoehorned into a life that already has very little wiggle room for even day-to-day stuff. This is all leading up to my question, which is, how do you remain hopeful in the trenches when surrounded by achievers? How do you make time for rest when it feels like a guilty pleasure to sit down every once in a while? Whoa. So first, let's talk about something. Let's talk about this part of her question. How do you remain hopeful in the trenches when surrounded by achievers? So first things first, let's just call it what it is, okay? That most of the crap that you're seeing online is not actually true. People are not as efficient as they look, and I love the home edit, but I guarantee you the second that they leave the television show or the Instagram shoot, that color-coordinated bookcase and that beautiful pantry in the gorgeous plastic see-through things and the spinny things that look like you're not supposed to touch anything there, that pantry does not look like that in 24 hours. Give me a frickin' break. Experts stylized that thing. Production assistants bought all that crap. They put it in there. There is no normal human being that can keep a pantry looking that way. So let's just say, number one, stop torturing yourself with the impossible standards that you see on social media. Rule number one. Rule number two, I agree with you. I personally believe one of the reasons why so many of you relate to me and you constantly write and say, Mel, you are so relatable. I'll tell you why. Because I have 3 children. I have 2 dogs. I have aging parents. I have a lot of stuff going on. I have ADHD, and there's absolutely nothing about my life that is perfect. And I notice that there are a lot of people in the self-help, in the influencer space that are either single or they are male and they have a full-time partner at home, or they have no children, and advice from a single 30-something who has 9 hours a day to exercise is not advice that's going to work for my life. It's just not. If you are 30 years old and you have 8 hours to exercise, that advice will work for you. If you are a guy and you have a partner at home that takes care of everything, yes, you can have 15 side hustles because you don't have to do shit when you get home. Let's call it for what it is. In a normal person's life, the advice often doesn't work. I don't know about you, but I don't have 3 fucking hours every morning for my morning routine. I'm lucky if I have 30 minutes. And hell, half of the mornings when I wake up, my dogs are already standing there right by the bed waiting for me to take them out. And I say this because it frustrates me that you and I look at the incredible advice that's out there and we don't flex it to actually work in our life. And so when you are listening to somebody, whether they are an efficiency expert, which sounds like a nightmare, frankly, or they're a fitness influencer, or there's somebody that's telling you how to eat right, I personally take everything with a grain of salt. And I take it with a grain of salt because I know that in order for advice to work for me, I got to flex it in a way so that it will fit into my life. And so we've already learned 2 things. If you are in the doldrums and you're constantly comparing yourself or beating yourself up because you think everybody else is out achieving you, you're wrong. People are putting up fake achievements and perfection online to sell you something. The second thing is, the only advice that's going to work is advice that you flex to work in your life. And so one of the reasons why I'm constantly sharing these really simple things to do is because that's the only things that I can fit into my life. My life is very complicated, just like yours. And so I can't fit in 2 hours of exercise, but I can fit in 15 minutes. I can't fit in training for a marathon right now, but I can get a walk in 3 days a week. And so what you're going to find is that if you hold yourself to an impossible standard, you're going to feel like that standard is impossible. If you become not only realistic about the demands of your life, but you also become very rigorous about what you demand of yourself in terms of, I'm not going to force myself to some ridiculous standard. I got 2 toddlers. I'm a single parent. It's not safe for me to walk alone outside and leave them. I just can't do it. So what can I do? And so when you say, so that's just hopefully getting rid of like the kind of comparison thing, because I do it too. I often have this conversation with Christine, who's our chief operating officer of 143 Studios, which is our production company. And she's also my sister-in-law. And I love her because I'm like the flighty, creative ball dropper genius type person, right? I call myself a genius, like in jest, but I'm creatively fruity all over the place, just flying high. She is a CFO, Excel spreadsheet, get everything in the columns kind of lady. Mel says yes, Christine says no. That's basically the joke inside the company. Mel said yes, but Christine said no. So anyway, I was complaining to her the other day because, of course, like you, I bash myself when I see other people out achieving me because I've got to win some imaginary competition here in life. And I see a friend of mine who is going on a book tour. And he is going on a book tour that is lasting 3 months. And I turned to Christine. I'm like, this is unbelievable. It's so cool. Da, 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 da. And she turned to me and she goes, he doesn't have children. You can't be on the road that long, Mel. Like, it's not going to work for you. And I'm like, oh, that's right. She's like, you got to stop comparing yourself to people whose lives don't look like yours. You will never be able to achieve what somebody who is a single male can achieve because you've got other demands on your time right now. You will never be able to achieve what a 23-year-old can do right now because you've got aging parents and 3 kids and a business to run. And so please stop making yourself feel like shit because you are looking at somebody who has totally different life circumstances than you. And by the way, this does not mean that there's something wrong with a 23-year-old fitness influencer. I think that's freaking fantastic that somebody's doing that with their life. There's nothing wrong with somebody who is going on a book tour for 3 months. I think that's fantastic. And there's clearly a part of me that wants to do more of that. But at the moment, I got to face reality. And the reality is, based on my values, based on what life looks like right now, I'm not going to do that. But what I can do is figure out what advice I respond to, what changes I want to make, and then I can fit that into my life. Okay, now let's address the actual question she asked. How do you make time for rest when it feels like a guilty pleasure to sit down every once in a while? Can we just take a moment? It feels like a guilty pleasure to just sit down? That is fucked up. I mean, and I feel it. I feel it too. I feel like there's something wrong with me if I'm not doing something. And maybe it comes from my immigrant grandparents who came from Austria, and my grandmother was grew up in a coal mining town in Ohio, and she moved east because her family answered an ad for a rich family looking for a maid, and they shipped my grandmother to New Jersey to be a maid for somebody, and that's where she met my grandfather, who immigrated here from Austria, and he was in the Navy, and they had a bakery when he got out of the Navy, and so they worked 7 days a week, basically 24 hours. My grandmother in the front of the shop, my grandfather in the back. My other side of the family are cattle farmers. I don't know about you, but there's not a lot of freelancers that you can find to work on a big cattle farm. They also had a produce stand. So I come from a long line of people who have a hard time sitting down because there was no time to sit down, or they just never did. And it's just in my DNA. So I get this. And so one thing that I want you to know is stop calling it guilt. We got to stop calling it guilt because it's just a pattern. You have a pattern of always staying busy. And I don't think we feel guilty. You know what I think you and I feel when we sit down and do nothing? We feel weird. We don't know what to do with our hands. We don't know what to think about. We don't know how to relax. Like, unless I'm on a vacation, on a beach chair, with a pina colada in my hand, I don't know how to relax. It's true. It's a sickness. And I'm going to go on the record and blame Eileen and Warren Bippert and Betty and Frank Schneeberger. My DNA, my grandparents. You're to blame for this. But now I'm stuck with it. So what am I going to do with it? First of all, we're not going to feel guilty, everybody. We're going to call it what it is. It's freaking weird. It's weird to do nothing. You are ambitious. That's why you listen to this. You're up to something. That's why you listen to this. You're constantly looking to improve something. That's why you listen to this and you hang out with me. You and I are busy. But we have to learn how to have moments where we do nothing. Like, when was the last time you did nothing? I don't even know. Funny, my mind's blank. I can't think of nothing. I'd be like, I don't even know. Can you think of when you did nothing last? I'm always doing something. And it's true. It's not that I feel guilty. I just don't know how to do nothing. I don't know how to rest. I don't know how to just give myself a break. I'm not wired this way, and neither are you. And here's the other thing. I believe that we live in a world that has trained us to always be on. Between the phone and a bazillion things to watch on TV and constantly emails to answer, there's always somebody who needs you. There's always something that needs to be done. And feeling needed is a way to feel connected and important. And so I don't think any of us feel guilty. I think we just don't know what to do. We don't know how to do nothing. And that's why I'm going to come back. I want this week. This is the theme. Let's practice the art of doing nothing, even if it's just for a minute. So here's what I'm going to commit to today, and then I'm going to go to the next question. I am going to take a bath. Now, I love taking baths. But normally, this is like embarrassing to admit this to you. I'm on my phone in my bath. I am literally a sicko. I sit on my phone in my bath. And I relax in my bath by answering emails. This is like literally awful that I do this. Why? Because I don't know how to do nothing. Oh my God. Aren't we funny? I bet even if you go and treat yourself to getting your nails done, which I have not done in a month, my feet literally look like I've been farming all day and I'm a bird with talons. Like, I'm so embarrassed. Thank God it's not flip-flop season. But even when I go get my nails done, the poor gal will be literally looking and trying to get me to keep my hands still. And what am I busy doing? I'm doing the same thing you're doing. I got my phone over there, and with wet fingernails, I am trying to scroll through my phone because I can't sit there and do nothing. So I want you to think right now about one moment of doing nothing and what that looks like for you. And now we're going to move to the next question. The next question is from Paige. Hi, Mel. Can you please talk about how to get out of your own head in order to start living your life? When I'm thrown into social situations or new experiences, I tend to get so wrapped up in my own head that my anxiety skyrockets. It can sometimes feel like I have a spotlight on me with a panel of judges grading my every move or every sentence that comes out of my mouth. My head just can't seem to realize that no one is paying that much attention, and it's preventing me from just enjoying myself. Your podcast has been a life changer. Can you please help me? Okay, this is an excellent question because there are two aspects to the art of doing nothing, everyone. One is the doing. And I'm even going to throw into a category. You ready? I'm even going to say doing nothing for me includes laying on the couch and just zoning out to like some TV show. As long as I don't have my phone in my hand, or I don't have sometimes I'll have a to-do list next to me. I know it's sickening, but I carry this spiral notebook around just to jot down things that pop into my mind. But if I were to just sit on the couch and not have a to-do list and not have my phone and just zone out in front of it, that's kind of doing nothing. That counts. We're going to let that count, okay? But there's a second part to doing nothing that is really a game changer, and that's how do you think about nothing? How do you quiet your mind? Because for me, that's the part that makes the physical doing nothing hard. Because the second I sit down, let's just say that what you were going to do tonight is you were going to make a fire and you're going to sit down in front of the fire. Or let's just say that you've got this awesome, comfy bed in your studio apartment and you're just going to sit on your bed. Just going to sit there for 5 minutes. Just really do nothing. You know what'll happen? Your thoughts are going to race. Your thoughts are going to be like, what am I doing? Why am I sitting here? I should be doing something. Okay, what's going on? Oh, that wall needs paint. Oh, look at the rug. I should probably do something about that rug. I haven't washed these sheets. And you're going to literally be like, you know, in our house in Sherburne, we had mice or squirrels. I don't even know what the hell they were, but they lived in the walls. It's an old farmhouse. What are you going to do? Like, you can't get rid of them. I mean, they just kind of come in. And so, honest to God, every night when I would turn off the lights, do you know what would happen? It was like a mouse parade. That's what you would hear in the walls of my house. It's like they turn on the second the lights go off. And then you turn on the lights and then they stop. And you're like, what is happening? That's your thoughts. Try it. Try to just sit there and think of nothing. You can't. You can't. And don't worry, I'm not about to tell you to meditate. So she wants to know, how do I get out of my own head? How do I think about nothing? Here's how you do it. First of all, you cannot trust yourself, okay? So I am not going to sit there and say, just try to think about nothing, because it's impossible. You are a complete novice at this. I am also not going to say that you should try meditating on your own, because unlike my husband, Chris, I'm not a meditation instructor, and I do not sit crisscross applesauce and meditate every day. I practice more of a mindfulness moving meditation, which I'll talk about in a second. But if you're a novice to this and you can't sit still or your thoughts are always racing, you need frickin' help. And lucky for you and me, there is free help everywhere. Download the Calm app, download Headspace, listen on Audible, listen on Spotify, listen on iTunes, listen on Amazon Music, listen on YouTube. Do you know how many free playlists there are with guided meditations or with that SMMR, I don't even know what it's called, ASMR, MSMR. I don't know what it is, but it's that sound where it's like, and you just listen to it and it calms your mind. What I'm trying to tell you is, do not try to calm your racing thoughts on your own. Get fricking help. Get a free app, find a playlist you like, create a playlist of music that just makes your mind go quiet. Get help with this. Here's a couple other things you can do. You can put an alarm in your phone that goes off randomly. Let's just pick a time. How about 2:13? 2:13 p.m. every single day, write a little alarm that just says, take a breath. Do nothing for 1 minute. That's it. Now, why would you want to do that? Why do you want to do this? I'll tell you why. And it's common sense. If you're always on and your thoughts are always racing, is that a good thing for you? Of course not. Like, think about your computer or your phone. You know how when it overheats or it's been on for 3 or 4 days in a row because you haven't turned it off, and then all of a sudden it starts rainbow wheeling or glitching or it's slower? What do? You unplug the computer or you turn off the phone. The art of doing nothing is so important because it's an intentional moment to unplug from life. It's an intentional moment where you restore your energy, where you interrupt the chaos, where you bring your power back inside, where you regroup. And you need that. And so do I. Stress levels are so high because you're always on. You're always running from one thing to the next. You're like your phone. Like it occurred to me the other day because my phone was getting glitchy. And I thought to myself, when's the last time I turned this thing off? I bet this phone has been on for like 3 weeks in a row. Just going, going, going. It needs a moment to do nothing. It needs a moment to reset. And so the reason why the one thing I want you and I to do this week is nothing is because we need it. And for those of us like you and me who have a lot going on and you got other people you got to take care of and you got a lot on your plate and you got demands at work and you can't just take a week off and do nothing. You can't go to an ashram. You can't go to a yoga retreat. Wouldn't that be nice? That would be just freaking fantastic. I would love to go to one of those retreats, where you pay a ridiculous amount of money and they take your phone away. And then you're forced to hike or just lay around. That would be amazing. I would love to go do something silent, but that's not my life right now. But I can figure out how to insert the art of doing nothing every day for a minute. And if you're lucky enough, again, to be off work this week, you can take this as the theme of the week. How do you do less? How do you find moments of nothing? How do you sit with the discomfort of not doing your to-do list, not racing to the grocery store, not trying to get something else done? What if you just let yourself be for a minute? That is exactly what you need. It's exactly what I need. And this will be interesting because the truth is, I have no freaking clue how to do this. I'm just as novice at this as you are. I'm going to set the reminder, 2:13. Stop. Take a breath. Do nothing for a minute. And I'm also going to have a song ready because songs really help me. In fact, I found a really good one. Hold on, let me see. I heard this song the other day. Let me see if I can find it because, this was so good. I put this in my family group chat. You know it's a good song when it's in your family group chat because it's going to be enjoyed by all the generations. Although I'll admit that nobody actually wrote back and said that's a great song. But I think it's a great song. Let me find this thing for you. Stand by, please. Did I text this on my phone? Oh, there it is. Hold on. No, it's not. Oh, God. Darn it. Where is it? Hold on. Stand by. Oh, I know where it is. Okay, hold on. But anywho, okay, so let me play the song for you. So I found this song, and I this is a good technique for me. This song is very old. It's called Genesis, and it's one of those trippy songs, like you might expect in a yoga class. Here we go. You know, there's a theme here. I like trippy music. That sort of has a George Winston meets yoga meets psychedelic medication sort of vibe to it, I think. And when I hear music like that, I just pay attention to the music and I notice my thoughts melt away. And so for me, my little thing that I'm going to do, 213 goes off, do nothing for a minute, take a breath, and I'm going to put that song on because that will focus my mind on something other than all the crap that's normally spinning. That's what I'm going to do.
I'm going to use this tool that I often use, which I call putting yourself in pause. My cat's about to come. I can hear him meowing. Mr. Noodle. Noodle. Come here, bud. You know, there's nothing like a cat coming into a space to bring you into the moment. Have you ever noticed that? So put yourself in pause. I just want you to do that with me right now. As you could tell, the emotions are totally overwhelming, not only because I'm exhausted and I've been sick, but also because I'm really disappointed. I'm not going to spend the weekend with my daughters. The cat is now on my lap. And I'm going to put myself in pause, and I want you to do this with me right now. Just stop for a second, okay? Close your eyes, unless you're driving a car. Put your hand on your heart, and let's take a deep breath. Just be still for a moment. Take another deep breath. There's power in the pause. And look, the pause isn't going to change what's going on in your life right now. But every time you put yourself in pause, you become a little bit more equipped to handle it. I think you can hear that I'm starting to gain a little bit of steadiness in my voice. The deep breath helped me come back into my body instead of letting those emotions and the sadness and the fatigue overwhelm me. So today I want you to remember you can put yourself in pause whenever you need it. Just repeat that mindful moment that we shared together. And if someone that you know is sick like me, or they're running on overdrive, which means they're about to become sick like me, or if they just need the reminder to slow down, to take a breath, to put themselves in pause for just a second and gather their strength so they can face whatever they're facing and carry on, please share this message with them. Now, I'm going to be on the couch all day with my cat, Mr. Noodle. I'm going to be taking a big, long pause. And here's my promise. I'll be back to you very soon. And in the meantime, if you want more tools for making your life calmer, simpler, and happier, go listen to the episode, How to Let Go. 2 simple ways to find clarity and move on. And one more thing, in case no one else tells you. Let me be the one to tell you that I love you, I believe in you and your ability to create a better life. And part of that means learning how to slow down, put yourself in pause, take a breath, and gather your strength.
Let's talk a little bit about thinking about rest, because we're in this culture, or we're in this cultural moment where women are feeling all this pressure to be everything. What got modeled for us in our households growing up was mom did everything. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, there's also this incredible grind and hustle culture at work, and hybrid work has made it worse. And the fact, I have never experienced in the 10 years that I've been coaching people, the amount of burnout, the amount of people who can never catch a break from work or family or chores or this, the pace that kids are being pushed on travel teams, and like everybody is just running this race to nowhere. And we've forgotten how important rest is. And so how should we think about rest so that we don't feel guilty?
We should think of rest as a right and not a reward.
Oh. Can you unpack that for us?
Sure.
A right, not a reward.
We often get the message from childhood that rest and recreation is a reward for productivity, right? You do well, you get something extra. So you have to do your chores, then you can go play. Do your homework, then you can go play video games. If you don't work hard in class, can't go to recess. There's all these, and there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. Like, people want to teach children responsibility and priorities and all of that. But sometimes the unintended message is, I can't go do the fun thing. I can't go do the rest thing until the productive thing is done. And that's fine when you're a kid and your list of things that must be done is finite. Right? If you're
unpack
12,
your backpack.
Yeah, unpack your backpack, take out the trash and do the dishes, and great, then go run off and do whatever. And then you become a 35-year-old woman and you're like, wait, but the things that have to be done is like unpack the backpacks, then do the dishes, then take the trash out, then feed the cats, then vacuum the floors, then scrub the baseboards, and then call the doctor, and it's like we think we have to get the whole list done before we can rest and relax. And so we never relax. And when we finally burn out, or we get overwhelmed and we collapse and we're frozen and we think to ourselves, I'm resting now, but you're not, because people who rest in shame work in shame. People who work in shame rest in shame. When you think that all of those tasks are moral obligations and you're not going to be good enough if you can't stay on top of it, then if you do go and sit down, all you're thinking about are the things you should be doing, and you don't actually rest. And so you get up, now you're behind and you're tired and you think, I can't do this. And then for a lot of people, they get so overwhelmed and burnt out that they kind of go frozen and can't do anything. And then they go, well, I must be lazy. I must try harder. I got to do more. When it's like, whoa, maybe you need to do less.
How do you put that into action? Because as you were talking, I'm like, that's me. Because I don't know anybody, at least no women, that are able to truly take a break, rest, and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah. So I think that there's been a lot of talk about taking breaks and how important that is. And I want to go in a slightly different direction. One, because a lot of people can't. Like they physically can't.
Yeah.
Things will fall apart. Things will not be functional right? And I think that if you are someone privileged enough to have the time, money, energy to be able to take breaks, then you've heard that advice. You can just go do that, right?
Right.
So instead of thinking about, well, how am I going to get a break? How am I going to get a break? How am I going to break? And yes, we need breaks. However, let's think instead about how we can get rest by just making things easier for ourselves. So the example that I use a lot is, let's say you have a mom and she's overwhelmed. Maybe she's a single mom, she's overwhelmed. And so the traditional sense of a break would be like, well, can you get someone to babysit the kids so that you can take a few hours a week?
Right.
Great, that's fine, that's nice. But
what if you know what? That doesn't happen, because then you think, it's going to take me time to find somebody, and then I'm going to have to coordinate it, and then I'm going to owe them the 2 hours. And so that's a wonderful thing for researchers to recommend. But in a normal person's life, it doesn't fucking happen.
Yeah. So instead, let's go, how can we make something easier? So what if Friday nights at this woman's house are rest nights? And instead of cooking, she orders a pizza. Or instead of cooking, she makes a giant grazing plate for her kids and she puts it out and goes, eat what you want? Or if they're older, what if she goes, it's make your own dinner night and I don't care what you make, get the ice cream out of the freezer, I don't care, right? So you find a way to give yourself a big break on how you're feeding. And then you say Friday nights are also movie nights. And that means we all make a pallet in the floor, we turn on the TV, and I don't care what time you go to bed. And in those few hours, maybe she doesn't get to go anywhere. Maybe she's not, maybe she can step away and do a fun project, but at the least she gets to sit there and do nothing and things are just easier. There are no dishes to clean up. She uses paper plates. She doesn't have to do the bedtime rigmarole of who, I don't want to sleep and read me another story. No, we're just going to sit here and watch TV, or that's the night we all sleep in mom's bed, or that's the night, right? Like, let's find a way to make Fridays or Sunday afternoons or Saturday mornings easier for a period of time where you just kind of go hands off, needs are met, your kids are going to think it's fun, you're going to give yourself a break. I think that's why. That's how.
My shoulders just dropped. It's now going to be movie night and fend for yourself on Friday nights. You have a saying about paper plates that I would love for you. You have this like mantra about paper plates.
Yeah.
Hit it.
Yeah. So my mantra about paper plates is you can't save the rainforest if you're depressed. And this came about because I was making a video trying to help somebody in a deep depression about how do they do their dishes. And I brought out, like, everyone's going to have that Tupperware molding in the back of the refrigerator, and that's what's keeping you from doing anything around your kitchen. And what I want to say to you is just throw the Tupperware away. Just throw it away. You can't save the rainforest if you're depressed. Better that we take some shortcuts now to get you back to being a functional human being where you can actually have the energy and the capacity to contribute to environmental causes in a way that matters, right? We know that there's a way to contribute that makes a big impact, and that is, through your politics, through perhaps your donations, perhaps your volunteering, but we're not going to save the earth just by convincing depressed people to hang on to their moldy Tupperware and their cardboard boxes.
You're fucking awesome. I wish you lived next door to me.
And by the way, I've never seen an environmentalist shame a diabetic for using single-use plastic syringes. And yet I have seen so many people in the name of environmentalism shame a new mother or a person in grief or a person with really bad ADHD or autism for using a single-use toothbrush or a paper plate.
You have a concept called fair rest. Mm-hmm. And for those of you that are living with family or a roommate and you feel like you're the one that does everything, what is the concept of fair rest and how can you use it so that the kind of division of labor, so to speak, which almost never really works in people's households and in the apartments that you share with roommates, how do you use this concept of fair rest?
So this is a different way of looking at division of labor because the traditional way of looking at it is equal labor. So the work should be equal. But when you talk about the work should be equal, let's just say we're talking about a marriage, what that sets you up for is comparison, competition, and like every man for himself, because then it's me having to prove the labor that I'm doing and how worthy it is. And then my husband has to prove how valuable his labor is and who's doing more. And unless you have the exact same job, and even then, it's like, who's going to compare a corporate attorney to an author or a stay-at-home mom? Like, you can't, a coal miner to a teacher, to a psychotherapist, to a doctor, like you can't, there's all sorts of different ways why people's jobs are difficult or any of those things. So it makes I have to look out for me. I have to prove the value of my labor and then fight for, only getting what's going to be fair. No. Back it up. It doesn't actually matter whether the work is equal. It matters whether the rest is fair. And to make the rest fair, it might be that one person's going to be working more or harder than the other in different seasons. So an example of this might be, let's say that an easy example, let's take that corporate attorney and that stay-at-home mom. And they're going, and he's going, I work so many hours, and she's going, I work nonstop too. And we look at how can we work together to make sure each of us is getting fair rest? And you can look and go, okay, well, what if that corporate attorney, even though he works all the time, he's still off the clock sometimes. And he still gets that lunch break. He still has what we call time autonomy to decide what and when to do things. And you have this stay-at-home parent who, has a more flexible schedule. Maybe she does get to have that rest in the middle of the day or something, but she's also doing care tasks which are cyclical in nature. They never stop. She's always on call. Right. And so it might be that they need to have a conversation about, on Saturdays, you be the default parent.
Right.
You be the one that changes the diapers and makes the dinners and, listens for the fights and does those things. And on Sundays, I'll be the default parent. And on when you're not the default parent, you get to just exist in your home. You get to go read a book. You get to do this. You get to do that. Now, that's not a prescription. That's not going to work for everybody. But if you have a dentist and a teacher, let's talk about fair rest. Let's talk about both of us deserve at a certain point at night to clock out. We both deserve a functional house, but everyone deserves to clock out of home labor and out of house labor. It shouldn't be the case that one person spends most of their time facilitating the life of the other.
Whoa. And what I liked best about what you said, because you once again flipped the paradigm, is that for most of us that are struggling with division of labor in our relationships and households, we're in a deadlock and a fight about the importance of the work that you're doing, justifying that you need time off. And, interestingly, when I started, my career, this part of my career and my speaking business really took off, it was at a moment in time where Chris had left the restaurant business. And he was what we started calling the first call parent, which meant he was the first person on the list at school that got called when there was something going on. And he was a stay-at-home dad. And what I noticed was very interesting. And that is that as I took on the role of primary and solo breadwinner, I also took on the gender kind of stereotype of feeling like my work was more important.
Mm-hmm.
And here I had been the first call parent for over a decade. And yet now that I'm making the money and I'm doing all the things and I'm out and I'm traveling and I'm working and I'm bringing home the baby and I'm doing all this stuff, I, as a woman, valued my contribution as much more than what my husband was doing by taking care of the kids. And we would have all of these battles about, I need time, but you've been out and I haven't had a break. But we were in the non-stereotypical gender roles in our marriage. And I found it extremely enlightening how work out of the house or the type of work that you do makes you think you deserve more.
Yeah.
And by making the conversation about rest, because we all believe that and can see that we deserve rest. And in talking about the fact that when you're the first call parents, you're in a never-ending cycle. There is no lunch break. There is no time off while somebody's taking a nap because you're probably trying to fold laundry. You need rest. And so by talking about it in this way, it actually brings compassion instead of competition into it. I love that. I love that. I love that.
And I was thinking about this the other day, there's been a lot of talk on my TikTok channel about division of labor, and especially this idea of, well, if I bring home the bills, that they should be taking care of everything else. And I think, and then you have, well, this is actually being at home's harder. Well, actually, and then we get in the competition. But
Yeah.
Think of it this way. There's a big difference between a couple saying, hey, this is how much I work, and here are the things that need to get done. And if you were to do X, Y, Z, then how can we divide these so that you and I have the maximum amount of free time? It's not about what do I deserve, like I shouldn't have to take out the trash because I did XYZ. It's if I take out the trash right now while he's doing bedtime, then we'll both get to hang out afterwards.
It's not a tit for tat.
It's not. It's okay, we decided that, I'm going to stay home and you're going to do this. And because of the amount you work, I'll do most of this stuff. Not because, oh, I have to pull my weight or you don't have to do this, but because it just makes the most sense because then we can both have time. But the other half of that is having an explicit conversation about what is sort of the minimum standard of functionality, because everybody deserves to function, and letting go of perfectionism. Like one of the reasons why I think we miss this conversation is that it's not just about who's taking out the trash. It's also about when one of you comes home and the trash isn't taken out, how do we respond to that? Do we go right to accusatory? Do we go right to, you should have done it? Do we go right to, or do we go to grace? Do we go, wow, I wonder if they had a hard day today?
I am guilty of all of this. Chris and I have had all of these issues in our marriage. Like the one thing that's very triggering for Chris is when I stack the cardboard boxes by the garage door and I don't flatten them. And when he sees the tower of cardboard boxes, he says, look, I feel like you think I'm the maid here. And so we've had that conversation. I got a lot out of this concept of fair rest and maximizing the amount of free time. And I'm going to bring that into my conversations with Chris because we haven't talked about it that way. What flipped it for me, Casey, is that I started to see how gross it was that I was adopting this very masculine, traditional value work hire. Even though I'm like, didn't feel that way at all, it's almost as if society itself had me absorb those messages because it's so insidious the way it can impact you. I started to realize I can't do what I do and have the family life that I want without him here full time.
Oh, yeah.
There's not another person I can pay. Like even that, well, what would I pay somebody to clean the house? It's not the same because that's their dad. And so it's priceless. And so when I finally absorbed that and I believed it and felt it, we became equal in terms of the contribution, but I've never had the conversation about what rest you need. How do we maximize our time together? How can we be in better partnership? And I think that's a game changer. Complete
it's especially
game changer.
a game changer when you have that first call parent because unless the person who's not that default parent, they have to be proactive about inserting themselves into situations in order for that first call parent to rest, even if they're still at the house, right? Because you'll often have a dynamic where, okay, partner A is the default most of the time. And so when someone cries, do I wait to see if they're going to do it? And if they don't, okay, I'll do it. If they're busy, I'll do it. I help, I do. Okay, but it's not just if they're busy, you do it. It's sometimes you have to get up and do it so they don't have to. They don't have to be busy. That's not the only justification for being able to just sit on your couch for more than 5 minutes at a time.
It's a right to rest.
Yes.
Not a reward. I remember when I was struggling profoundly with postpartum, and I know you had a very significant struggle too. I was so sick and so weak and so depressed that I was in bed, severely medicated for 12 weeks. And it was a really awful moment in my life. And, it was severe enough that they didn't want me to be alone with the baby, with Sawyer. And I remember during that time that our cousins, Lisa and Steve, paid to have their cleaning person come to our house once a week. And it was one of the greatest gifts somebody could have ever given me. And I also had my parents who could stay, but just for, they stayed for a couple weeks. And then Chris's parents came. And then I had a very dear friend, Joni, sit with me while Chris could go off to work. Because I couldn't take a shower. I couldn't brush my teeth. I couldn't get out of bed. And I needed to be recovering. And I'll never forget that. And I wondered what thoughts you had about what the person listening can do to help someone that they love through a really tough time, like postpartum or depression or the loss of a loved one, or just those moments where something happens or you find yourself in a stretch of the highway called life where laundry's overwhelming. Brushing your teeth is like scaling Mount Everest. What can someone do to help?
So, taking into consideration that, you have to kind of look at who that person is to you, right? The way you would show up at someone's front door of your best friend, maybe wouldn't want to show up at the front door of someone who, you work with. But that being said, one of the things that I have found that almost works for everyone, and I know that sounds like I'm just like the paper plate queen, but like if you take someone in a hard time, a giant stack of paper plates, like all the paper stuff, it's magical, because here's what happens. It's already there. They may not ever go out to do that because, they care about the environment, because they don't think it's that bad. But if you already put it there, they're not making any environmental impact by just using it.
That's true.
That's my favorite gift, because I don't need to know their dietary restrictions. I don't need to go into their house if they're not comfortable with that. I don't need, everyone can get a break from doing dishes. And you take all the guilt away by just being like, I'm leaving it on your front porch.
Oh, I love that. Casey Davis, you are a treasure. So Dr. John and Julie Gottman, they are the most prominent researchers on the topic of love and relationships. And their research has found that couples who are happy, you know why they're happy? They know how to have fun together. Well, that extends to all relationships, particularly with your family. I know that the second that you walk into mom or dad's house, you feel like you're 8 years old again. I know the second that you're around your family, even though you love your brothers and sisters, there's the golden child, there's the middle child, there's the favorite. You fall right back into the old roles. Well, here's the thing about fun. Fun lessens the stress. Fun helps you sleep better. Fun makes you happier. It makes you smarter, and it strengthens your relationships when you're having fun with other people. And you know that this is true. And look, you aren't the only one. Here's how sad the topic of fun is. Researchers have a word to describe the fact that you and I are not having as much fun as we should. You want to hear the words? It's pretty sad. Researchers say that you and I are living in a fun drought. I mean, my mouth is not just dry. Apparently, my whole life is dry. 97% of us, according to the research, and that includes you and me, wish we had more fun. 60% of adults believe that their life is just way too grown up. I know I feel that way. Don't you wish you could go into a time machine and sit back at the kids' table again and be elbowing your cousins and laughing at all the adults? Well, that brings me to the next piece of research. 73% of us miss aspects of our childhood, like birthday parties or family celebrations. Let's just talk about your own family for a second. Forget about what your relationship is like right now. I want you to think back through time. What are the best memories that you have with your family? I guarantee you, what popped right into your mind were the fun times. When I think about my family, the Schneebergers, you know what I think about? I think about game night. I think about the fact that we love playing euchre and backgammon, and we always divide up into teams. And my mom and I are a great team because we love to smack talk, and then it's like the ladies against the guys. And we will play cards for hours. Cribbage, euchre. I just love those nights. And we laugh and we're competitive. Or I can think of another memory that comes to mind for me is wiffle ball. When my little nephews were tiny, they're twins and they're 14 now and they're taller than I am. Well, I'd get out there when they were little, and I would always have to drop out of the wiffle ball game because I haven't had my bladder surgery yet. And then everybody would laugh about how Aunt Mel just peed herself, ha, 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 ha. And they'd try to make me laugh, so I would pee myself. Or when we go visit my parents, my dad always rents a pontoon boat, and not just any pontoon boat. There is only one place on Muskegon Lake where you can rent a pontoon boat. This pontoon boat is like 30 years old. We have rented the same thing every year that we go back and visit. And this thing's like chugga, 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 chugga. And the last summer when we were back there that we rented it, it died in the middle of the lake. Honest to God. But it was a blast. You know, we laughed and laughed and laughed, and my dad had to wave down a boat and get a ride. It was a whole thing. But we always have fun. And I guarantee you, when I go back this summer, it'll be that same 31-year-old pontoon boat, and we'll all wonder if it will actually be able to have enough horsepower to do tubing. Now, on Chris's side of the family, when I think about memories there, it's always fun stuff too. Like how excited all 9 cousins were when they get together. And they would spend hours and hours and hours, particularly in the winter, building jumps on this huge hill that we live on. And then they would sled on it. And honestly, the last time they all did that, it's kind of sad. I bet it was about 15 years ago. Or another memory, we had this epic lip sync battle one Thanksgiving where all of not only Chris's family got together, but all of his cousins came too. And it was every family was a band. It was this incredible battle. Absolutely amazing. Do you know when that was? 13 years ago. So it begs the question, if you always remember the fun times, why aren't we having fun anymore? So do you have any ideas as our CFO, the Chief Fun Officer of our family, for how we could mix it up this year over the holidays?
Honestly, like, I feel like I'll just spitball. I don't have any in particular, knowing our family, but I think there's ideas that can be super out there and wild. For example, like the anything but clothes dinner, which I really wish honestly didn't happen after Dad walked down in a like pedal something over his junk and nothing else. But
he had clogs on.
Oh, perfect. But I mean, that was like a little too out there, and we do that with like our friends, and I didn't anticipate you guys taking it that seriously, and God knows I don't want to see our grandmother JJ with a Vouv box over her uplifted tits, but I think that what we could do, which could be like wholesome, is, I don't know, I feel like there's a ton of different things. The first thing that came to my mind is this isn't like out there or anything, but I remember we used to like paint pottery a lot when we were up in Vermont. So maybe we could get like a bunch of pottery to paint for everyone or something like wholesome like that. Or we could, I remember you and Amy went to like a flower building thing or wreath building class, something like that. I mean, the obvious dance party, we've done lip syncing battles. I feel like people would be offended if we did the theme everyone dresses the other person. So I think avoid doing that. But
I like that one.
You like that?
Yes, I do.
So what?
So how do you come up with your ideas?
Honestly, like, I don't even know. I feel like I get inspiration from like online. I'll see a photo of, for example, like a colonial costume and be like, oh my gosh, it would be so fun to incorporate that into a bar crawl. And then you plan the whole bar crawl and you just make sure, I don't know. I feel like I'm very forceful in these type of ideas. So people don't really have a choice whether they want to dress up or not. And I'm not saying that that's the way to go about it, but I think that every single idea or like fun theme or party idea that I have ever come up with, I just make sure that I go 100% all out, so that if you don't do so and you show up to the party or you show up to the bar crawl, like you're the one who looks out of place, which sounds horrible, but I just feel like if you're the one planning and you're not the one going 100%, or even like being super outgoing or rowdy about it and making sure everyone feels comfortable like in and around the group, whoever's participating in it, then it would never work, because I feel like anything, as the creator, you need to believe in it just as much as anyone else, for anyone else to like actually do it.
I absolutely love that. Okay, so takeaway number one from our chief fun officer, Sawyer Robbins, is if you're going to plan something fun and unexpected over the holidays, which we are saying you absolutely should, you got to go all in. You got to be the most excited in order to enroll everybody else. Now, I want to give everybody a couple ideas because you've been sensational at planning things for our families. So over the quarantine, everybody, Sawyer made a month-long chart, and on it were themed nights. And so one of them is the one she regrets, where she made us all show up to dinner wearing anything but clothes. Second one that she did is we did that cooking show where we had a bake-off, right? Where you had to make a dessert.
Yeah, that's another actually good idea. I feel like for Thanksgiving is instead of like everyone bringing the food to the table and then everyone just eats it, it's fun to like bring all the ingredients to individual's house, etc., and then bake off or cook off or whatever and have a little bit of a competition. And I am severely competitive, so I always love that type of stuff. But I think that gets everyone together and in high spirits, and obviously food brings people together, so that's another fun idea. But yes, we did a bake off. I did not win. I was crushed for days. My mom won, and Kendall. I think you guys made like mousse.
Yes.
Me and dad might have like literally bought cookie dough and like had at it. I have no idea.
But the other way that our chief fun officer Sawyer supersized this is we had to be in costume as chefs.
Right.
So another thing that we do as a family that you have planned is we do like these games like Salad Bowl, where you take a big salad bowl and everybody just takes pieces of paper and throws in names. And it could be names that are anything from Mickey Mouse to, the president, to actors, to people in your family. And then you basically divide into two teams and you play the charades game of having to guess how many you can get in a minute. That's a really fun game, brings out the competitive spirit. We've also, with our family over the summer vacation, we have done these family Olympics where you Google yard games, whether it's the balloon toss or the egg races or various yard games. But key to this, Sawyer, again, bringing the fun, makes everybody divide into teams that have a color. And then you got to go all out on the color of your team and the costumes you're wearing for your team. Now, do you have any other ideas? Because I feel like these are kind of in categories, everybody, that there are activities that you can do together. There are games you can play and teams you can break into together. Like, what if this were the year, Sawyer, that we did a huge capture the flag game with the whole family?
Yeah, that would be really fun, actually. That's a great idea. See, look at you.
And go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, well, capture the flag is a great idea, like games, etc. I think that always brings people together. And I think that what always makes something more fun is, as I'm sure you can see a consistent theme here, is costumes or dress up or something along the lines of not wearing just your regular everyday sweats or clothes or Thanksgiving meal dresses, etc. And so costumes always makes things more fun, as well as decorations. Like, I think if you are able to really deck out your house or even like the Thanksgiving dinner table, it always just makes people feel so much more excited and lively. And if you want to get everyone involved, I've done parties where I ask individuals to bring different types of decorations, and then we all get together and decorate the place together and then essentially destroy the place, and then I'm the one cleaning it up. But I think that decorations and costumes and obviously music is always a good idea.
Okay. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe, because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.